Welcome to the Uncle's channel. Thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy, Game Boy Color game. Today focus on a game called F1 Race for the original Game Boy. Now these early Game Boy racing games are pretty much a masterclass in creating a very well crafted game, but also a infuriating game at the same time. And it's infuriating just simply because it's so incredibly difficult in order to actually finish the game, and requires a pretty much endless amount of patience and memorization to actually finish them. But F1 Race does have its charm. Like I said, it's well crafted. It's got a little Mario magic in there as well, which we're going to get to. And overall, a fairly enjoyable experience. And also, if you play it as a multiplayer, 4 players can play at the same time. And so I didn't get to experience that, but evidently that's also where some of the magic of the game lies. And I don't know why I just simply said Mario magic, because actually you're going to have a lot of Nintendo characters here. You have like Link and Samus, and we're going to get to all the cameos here in a little bit. It's almost like an early version of Super Smash Bros. It might be the very first time all these Nintendo characters are in one single game outside of Super Smash Bros. But regardless, this game did get moved up in the queue a bit because Hot Wheels 555 requests I cover it sooner than later. So naturally moves up in the queue. If there's a game that you want to see me cover sooner than later, let me know the name of the game in the comments down below. And just like F1 Race, I'll move it right on up in the queue. Now I can start the videos up. Look at the box art for the game first. And this is a great representation of the game itself. You have your race car in the bottom left-hand side of the screen here. Your little flame coming out the back of the car. And you do get a boost inside the game and a very satisfying sound effect to go along with that. The other racers are in front of you, and that is where they will be for 99% of the game, especially first place. It actually starts off with like a solid, I would say, 10% lead around the track, like as soon as the race begins. And so you will almost always be in at least second or third place until the very close of the game. It does say a high-speed race for up to 4 players, and that is going to be the multiplayer function on that. And I don't play it for the individual review here because my goal is just simply to finish the game. But I do feel like the multiplayer function would be where the replayability of this game is going to last for many, many years to come. But overall, it's a good cover for the game, and it summarizes exactly what you're getting. Now, when you start the game up here, you do have the title screen, the name of the game up top, and a little race car comes zooming in and zooms away. Then you have 3 game options that you can choose from. There's Grand Prix, which we're going to have to beat in order to consider finishing the game here. There's Time Trial, so you can compete with your friends to get the fastest time possible on any of the courses. But if you really want to compete with your friends, you're probably going to do multi-game, which allows you to link up those 4 Game Boy cartridges or 4 Game Boys in order to pretty much compete on any of the courses. But like I said, we are focused on Grand Prix, and when you load up here, you have a little map at the top that basically says all different locations for the tracks around the world that you're going to race on. And it would have been really cool if you could like choose any of the tracks that you want and go in whichever order that you want, sort of like a Mega Man game. But they didn't go that route. You just simply have to go in the particular order that they have already laid out, and you do start off here in Australia. Now, once you've started up the course here, you do have to choose which vehicle that you want. There's not a lot of variety here. There's only 2 vehicles to choose from. They pretty much look identical from the aesthetic-wise, but there is going to be a difference as far as like top speed, and then there's the top speed of your boost, and then there's also the amount of boost that you have inside the gas container here. And I did try to race with both cars here, but car B has such a high top speed as its base without the boost. Each time you go around a curve, you end up flying off the curve, and so the handling of car A is way better, and the top speed as far as like with the jet is going to be way better on car A as well. So car A is definitely the better vehicle in the game, and I personally see no reason to play with car B. But if you are an expert at the game, let me know in the comments down below if I'm missing something out about car B. So we start with the Australia track here, and pretty much every track is going to look identical when it comes to the foreground here. You're going to have your race track here, your little race car, the other racers, and everything's going to look exactly the same, but the background is going to change for every track. In Australia, you have the Aries rock in the background, and as you curve around the course, the background tends to rotate with you. Not too distracting on this course. Some of the other courses will be a little bit distracting, but it looks pretty darn good for the Australia track. The A button is your accelerate, B button is brake. I don't think I use brake pretty much at all in the game. Generally, if I want to go around the curve, I just simply let off of the acceleration. And then the up button on your D-pad is going to be your boost. And pretty much anytime you're on a straightaway, you want to have that boost held down to the max and try your best to overtake any of the fellow racers on the track. Now, if you do journey off the track here on the straightaways, it's not too big of a deal except for losing just a little bit off your top speed. However, if you journey off the track on a curve here, you do end up hitting like a little stop sign or like a little bumper on the side of the road, and it's going to wreck your car, and it's going to throw you behind like 2 or 3 seconds. And pretty much on every single race, if you go off the track one single time and wreck your car, you will lose that race. There is no way for you to win first place once you've wrecked your car, at least from my experience in the game. And so this is pretty much you mess it up, just might as well restart the race and try all over again. Now, the first time I went through this, I didn't know about that. I got second place, and of course you have like a little ceremony here. I'm on the second pedestal, and it says to try again. You cannot advance to the next race until you get first place on that particular track, and you have to go through 9 individual tracks here in order to finish the game. Now, the second time I go through Australia here, I try very hard not to wreck my car. I do go off the track from time to time, but never a full-on wreck for the maximum amount of time lost. And so the second time around, I do get first place here. And when you get first place, you do a crazy little jump up in the air and dance a little bit. And evidently the ladies just love it because like little hearts are coming up. They're in love with you because of the dance. And you also get to do like a little drive-by in front of them with a variety of Nintendo characters stuck in the middle. You start off with Toad, and we're going to get to all the ones in the second, but they're not all Mario oriented. Like I said, it's a full Super Smash Brothers universe as we go. Now the second track you're going to go to is Canada, and you're going to have the Rocky Mountains in the background. The course is nowhere near as straightforward. You are going to get a few more curves here. It takes me maybe 3 tries to go through this one, and when I finally do win first on this one, I barely squeak out a victory, and I felt that I was going through it. I played pretty much a perfect run, but as I look back at my footage here compared to what you have to do in the later races, I played nowhere near a perfect run, and so the game does get progressively harder as you go. Now when you do win first on the Canada track here, you do drive by in front of Luigi. You give him a little wave here. I thought it was Mario at first until later on in the game. It was a little bit shorter of a character. I was like, ah, so this must be Luigi. You wouldn't know it on the Game Boy, but I guess if you played on the Super Game Boy, they might have color coded it correctly. I don't know about that. Now for the third track here, you're going to the United States of America, and you are on the southeast coast according to the map, and so I'm not really sure which city they're hearkening to because it is a fairly large cityscape in the background. Maybe like Charleston or something. I'm not sure about that. If you know for sure, you can let me know in the comments down below. But the overall course here is very much of a scribbly mess. And that also means there are tons of very sharp curves that you're going through here. And not only is it hard to navigate those as far as like predicting when they're coming up, pretty much memorization of the course, but also the background. The cityscape is not static. It continues to rotate around. It's almost like when you turn from one cityscape, it goes to another one. And when you do a quick turn like that, it just becomes very disorienting very fast. It almost looks like more of a glitchy mess. It's not a glitch. It just looks really bad in the background and can throw you off, you know, when you're not focusing on your car. Outside the background, this track is pretty much on the same difficulty as Canada. Not overly difficult, but still not very easy at the same time. And when you finish up to the United States of America, this time as you wave to the crowd, Princess Peach is right there in the center to wave back at you. Now the fourth track in the game is going to take us over to Europe, and we're going to be in Portugal, and more of a like a little coastal city here, more of a coastal town according to the background. And this is by far the hardest track in the game thus far. They added in a new mechanic here, which is going to be basically 90-degree S-turns. And when I say 90 degrees, just look at the little map down here, and you can see it's almost like a little zigzag that's happening at different places. And anytime you go around those, it is just incredibly hard to control that, and you wreck almost every single time. I never really got like a great strategy down for it, and truth be told, it almost felt like luck every time I did it pretty much perfectly here. And there's no telling how many times it took me to go through this course because I either wrecking on the S curves, or I simply wasn't fast enough, or I'd run out of jet fuel. And even the final time where I actually did finish the course and get first place, I ran out of jet fuel right before the end, and I barely snuck out a victory. I feel like this is a extreme difficulty jump between course 3 and course 4, and I feel like for most players the game probably ended at this particular point. But when you do finish this course, as you're getting ready to wave by the characters here, Link is out here for the first time, and what a great sprite animation for Link. This is a true reward for defeating Portugal and advancing through the game. And trust me, the characters are going to get even more eccentric as we go. Now track 5 is going to be Japan, and it's mostly just clouds and ocean in the background, and there's only one 90-degree S-turn in this particular course, and that's the very start of the course. So if you miss up on it, you can just simply restart the course immediately. It's going to save a heck of a lot of time instead of missing up like 2/3 of the way through the course, even though you do technically have to do 2 laps. So there is a good chance of hitting that S curve again on the second lap. But regardless, it's way easier to have it hidden in the middle of the course here. And as I was going through it, this is the closest race I have in the entire game. When I actually got to the finish line, I wasn't sure that I actually won first place or not until I got to the credit scene here. It actually showed me on my little podium. I don't know what the individual seconds was, but it had to be like the tenths or hundredths of a second. It was a very slim victory. When you go through the waving crowd, it's going to be Mario. Mario's a little bit shorter than Luigi was. That's the only way I would use Mario because there is no other distinguishing factor. Now track number 6 is going to be Brazil, and there are 0 90-degree S-turns on this course. And so difficult-wise, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier than the last 2. And it probably should have come before the last 2 when it comes to like the overall difficulty progression in the game. But as you're going through it, the background obviously represents something in Brazil, but I have no clue what the background actually is here. If you know what it's representing, let me know in the comments down below, because I'm just not really sure here. Now, when you do finish up track number 6, Metroid is going to appear in the, or I guess not Metroid, Samus is going to appear in the background, waving at you as you go by. So like I said, it is all the collection of Nintendo characters. Super Smash Bros. Is coming to life much earlier than we ever knew about. Now, track number 7 is going to be the USSR. It gives you an idea of like what year this game was created in. The background is obviously going to be the city of Moscow here. And as you're going through it, there are no 9-degree S-turns. However, even if you don't wreck, and even if you feel like you did a good job overall in the race, using your boost on the straightaways, you will not win this course. You pretty much have to start memorizing when you're coming out of a curve, how many bumpers there are on the side, and when you get to the very last one, go ahead and start boosting so you can come out of the curve as a boost in order to get that just a little bit extra gain on some of the opposing vehicles here, because if you do not do that, you will not win this course. You have to be boosting pretty much constantly. This is a very difficult course. When I finally did do it, it was super close, even at the very end. But when you finish it, you do meet Pit from Kid Icarus, and this will be his first Nintendo crossover until Smash Brothers Brawl, I think. It might have been the one after that. I think it's Brawl that he came in on. So a early crossover for Pit here. Now, track number 8 is going to be India. You have the Taj Mahal in the background, and there are huge curves in this one, like really ones that sort of go all the way around. And the only really difficult part here is one that goes really far around and has like a really tight curve at the close, and you have to sort of adjust your vehicle as you're going through that. Now, I went through this course so many times, I had to memorize pretty much every curve, have all my ideas when I was going to boost out of a curve, and like every time I barely lost just simply by a sliver. But the final time that I went through it, the person who was in first place actually had a wreck and crashed in front of me. No other time in the entire game up to this point did the first place actually have a wreck and crash. So this particular race here is by far my best victory in the entire game, dating all the way back to the very first course in the game. I had a massive victory here, and it felt good to finally have a victory after losing so many battles in the game. And when you get to the end, DK has a little pumping fist here as you drive by. Now, track number 9 is going to be Egypt, so you have some pyramids in the background. There's a ton of curves in this course, and there is going to be one 9-degree S-turn. However, it still doesn't feel as difficult as some of the earlier courses in the game, and did not take me anywhere near as many tries to go through this one. The first place, once again, happened to wreck. I didn't get as much of a gain out of this one as I did in the last course, I guess because I wasn't playing quite as well, but I still won. And when you win the game here, after your first place, a little victory, a celebration, you do one final drive-by in front of all the Nintendo characters, waving at them once again, so you get to like see the greatest hits of all of them. And when you get to the very end, there is Bowser, and of course he's waving at you as well. He's excited for your victory, I suppose. And then it says, "Nice race, please play again." Not quite the excitement you want after you put so many hours into this game. It probably took me around 6 to 7 hours to finish it, and so I might be a little bit slow on it, but I mean, it took a little while to actually memorize all the courses as you're going through it. But let's talk about this game as an overall. Now, there are some really huge pluses in the game. The game controls excellent. As you're going through the courses, letting off the gas, putting your brake on, using your boost, all that feels completely natural. Your boost feels powerful. You have like a great sound effect behind the boost. The longer you use the boost, the more intense the sound effect gets. There's just a lot of pluses on like how the game controls, and it actually feels like a really good racer as you're going through it. Even like when you ram into the other cars, getting them to ram off into a bumper and whatnot, there's just a lot of really good controls, and it all feels very natural. However, some of the courses don't really match up with your controls. And what I mean by that, those 90-degree S-turns, they just simply did not match up with the controls. As far as like being able to navigate those and actually know what you're doing, just simply extraordinarily difficult. So the controls are really good, just simply the overall track layout did not always go with the controls perfectly here. And also the backgrounds on the courses. Like I mentioned, as you're going through it, sometimes the backgrounds will like swirl around a little bit, almost giving more like a glitch effect to it, or like someone who's sensitive to like flashing lights, a seizure or something. So some of the courses could have been reworked a little bit to line up better with the handling of the game. And speaking of some of the courses, the difficulty of the game is very intense as you're going through it. There are several courses you cannot make a single mistake on in order to win the victory. Like if you go through it and don't crash a single time, but if you went off the road just a little bit, you're probably going to lose the battle. Or if you didn't boost out of every corner just simply perfectly, you're probably going to lose the race. And pretty much you have to play it absolutely perfect start to finish in order to get that first place. But if you do play it perfectly, you pretty much guaranteed to get that victory. And so try hard enough, memorize the courses, and you do feel like you earned your overall first place when you do get it. It's not unfair. it's just simply very, very, very hard in order to actually achieve the victory as you go. It might have been nicer if they had added like in a few difficulty modes here, like easy, medium, or hard, because it feels like you were playing on a hard setting throughout the entire experience, and most players are probably not going to finish the game. But that also leads to a separate factor of this game that I didn't cover in this video, which is the multiplayer, which I feel is what most players probably played on this game. You have full selection to all the courses, play with your friends, and it's much more satisfying to actually defeat a human player than a computer as you're going through it. And so I feel like the multiplayer is probably what allowed this game to have its staying power and have such fond memories in most people's minds. If you just simply go for the single player mode, like I said, well crafted, overly difficult, with a few tweaking on some of the courses that are needed, I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10, and I would recommend it giving a playthrough, at least through the first few courses or the multiplayer if you have the opportunity. What do you all think? Do you enjoy F1 Race? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above, and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.